The Orontid Dynasty was a hereditary dynasty of Armenia, and the rulers of the successor state to the Iron Age Kingdom of Urartu. The Orontids established the supremacy over Armenia around the time of the Scythian and Median invasion in the 6th century BC. Members of the Orontid dynasty ruled Armenia intermittently during the period spanning the 6th century BC to at least the 2nd century BC. First as client kings or satraps of the Median and Achaemenid empires who established an independent kingdom after the collapse of the Achaemenid Empire, and later as kings of Sophene and Commagene who eventually succumbed to the Roman Empire. The Orontids of the first of the three royal dynasties that successively ruled the ancient Kingdom of Armenia. Historical background. Historians state that the dynasty was of Iranian origin, and suggest, albeit not clear, that it held dynastic familial linkages to the ruling Achaemenid dynasty. Throughout their existence, the Orontids stressed the lineage from the Achaemenids in order to strengthen the political legitimacy. The name Oronts is the Hellenized form of a masculine name of Iranian origin, Eru, in Old Armenian. The name is only attested in Greek. Its Avestan connection is Oru-Uint and Middle Persian Arwan. Some have suggested a continuity with the Hittite name Anuwanda. Various Greek transcriptions of the name in classical sources have spelled as Orins, Aruans, or Ardoites. The presence of this dynasty is attested from at least 400 BC, and it can be shown to have ruled originally from Armavir and subsequently Uvandashat. The precise date of the foundation of the Orontid dynasty is debated by scholars to this day, but there is a consensus that it occurred after the destruction of Urartu by the Scythians and the Medes around 612 BC. Orontid kings and satraps of Armenia. Xenophon mentions an Armenian king named Tigranes in his Cyropedia. He was an ally of Cyrus the Great with whom he hunted. Tigranes paid tribute to Astyages. His elder son was also named Tigranes. Upon the outbreak of hostilities between Medes and Babylonians, Tigranes had renounced his treaty obligations to the Medes. As a successor of Astyages, Cyrus demanded to be paid the same tribute. Strabo corroborates this in his geography. In 521 BC, with the disturbances that occurred after the death of Cambyses and the proclamation of Smerdis as king, the Armenians revolted. Darius I of Persia sent an Armenian named Dardasi to suffocate the revolt, later substituting him for the Persian Vomisa who defeated the Armenians on May 20, 521 BC. Around the same time, another Armenian by the name of Araka, son of Haldita, claimed to be the son of the last king of Babylon, Nabonidus, and renamed himself Nebuchadnezzar IV. His rebellion was short-lived and was suppressed by Antaphanes, Darius's Bocharia. These events are described in detail within the Behistun inscription. After the administrative reorganization of the Persian Empire, Armenia was converted into several satrapies. Armenian satraps regularly intermarried with the family of the King of Kings. These satraps provided contingents to Xerxes' invasion of Greece in 480 BC. Herodotus says that the Armenians in the army of Xerxes were armed like the Phrygians. Quote, in 401 BC Xenophon marched through Armenia with a large army of Greek mercenaries as part of the March of the 10,000. Xenophon mentions two individuals by the name Oronts, apparently both Persian. One was a nobleman and military officer of high rank, belonging to the royal family. As the commander of the citadel of Sardis, he waged war against Cyrus the Younger, and he tried to betray him to Artaxerxes II Memnon shortly before the Battle of Cunaxa, but was taken prisoner and sentenced to death by a court-martial. Xenophon's Anabasis has a detailed description of the country. There it is also written that the region near the river Centrites was defended by the satrap of Armenia for Artaxerxes II, named Oronts, son of Artaxerxes, who had Armenian contingents as well as Alarodians. Tirabas is mentioned as Hippicos of Armenia under Oronts, who later became satrap of Lydia. In 401 BC, Artaxerxes gave him his daughter Rhodogun in marriage. In two inscriptions of King Antiochus I of Commagene on his monument at Nemret, an Oronts, called Oroans, is reckoned, among others, as an ancestor of the Orontids ruling over Commagene, who traced back the family to Darius I. Diodorus Siculus mentions another Oronts, possibly the same, that in 362 BC was satrap of Mysia and was the leaders of the revolting satraps of Asia Minor, for which position he was best fitting because of his noble birth and his hatred of the king. Misled by his love of power and fraud, he betrayed his fellow satraps to the king, but he revolted a second time, probably owing to his dissatisfaction with the king's rewards, and launched several attacks, which were continued in the reign of the new king Artaxerxes III Argus. During that time he also conquered and occupied the town of Pergamum, but finally he must have become reconciled with the king. In 349 he was honored by a decree of the Athenians with civic rights and a golden wreath. Many coins were struck by him during the satraps' revolt in Clazomenae, Phasia, and Lampsacus. All subsequent Orontids are his descendants. Darius III was the satrap of Armenia following Oronts, from 344 to 336 BC. An Armenian contingent was present at the Battle of Gaugamela under the command of Oronts and a certain Mithraustes. Diodorus mentions that Oronts was a friend of the Macedonian general Peucestes. Armenia formally passed to the Macedonian Empire, as its rulers submitted to Alexander the Great. Alexander appointed an Orontid named Mithranes to govern Armenia following the defeat of Oronts II. With the agreement at Babylon after Alexander's death, Armenia was assigned to Neoptolemus, and kept it till his death in battle in 321 BC. Around 302 BC the capital was transferred from Armavir to Uvandishat by Oronts. Starting from 301 BC, Armenia is included within the sphere of influence of the Seleucid Empire, but it maintained a considerable degree of autonomy, retaining its native rulers. According to Polyinus, in 227 BC the Seleucid rebel king Antiochus Hierax took refuge in Armenian territory governed by King Arsames, founder of the city Arsamosata. Towards the end 212 BC the country is divided between two kings, both vassals of the Seleucids, Greater Armenia and Armenia Sophene, including Commagene or Armenia Minor. Antiochus III the Great decided to suppress the local dynasties. He besieged Arsamosata. Xerxes surrendered and implored the clemency of the king, whom he accepted as his sovereign. Antiochus gave his sister Antiochus as a wife to Xerxes, who later murdered Xerxes. Greater Armenia was ruled by an Orontid descendant of Hydarnes, the last Orontid ruler of Greater Armenia. He was apparently subdued by Antiochus III the Great, who then divided the land between his generals Artaxias and Zariadas, both of whom would claim descent from the Orontid family. Orontids of Commagene. In Nemret Dagi, opposite the statues of gods, there are a long row of pedestals, on which stood the steles of the Greek ancestors of Antiochus. At a right angle to this row stood another row of steles, depicting his Orontid and Achaemenid ancestors. For these steles, the ones of Darius and Xerxes are well preserved. In front of each stele is a small altar. Inscriptions have been found on 2 of those altars. Much attention was given by Antiochus that everyone would be aware that he was related to the dynasty of the King of Kings, Darius I, by the marriage of Princess Rhodogun to his ancestor Oronts. The father of Rhodogun was the Persian king Artaxerxes. In 401 BC he defeated his younger brother, who tried to throw him from his throne. Because of the help Artaxerxes received from his military commander and satrap of Armenia, Oronts, he gave his daughter in marriage to him. The descendant Orontid Mithridates Psychalinikos married Seleucid princess Laodicea Philadelphos. Orontid kings in Armenian tradition: Oronts Isakovakiats, Tigranes Orontid, the Vatin, Hidans I, Hidans II, Hidans III, Ardashir, kings and satraps: Oronts, Darius Kojomanis, Orontid Dynasty: Oronts II, Mithranes, Perdiccas, Neoptolemus, Eumenes, Myron, Oronts III, Sames of Sophene, Arsames I, Caraspes, Arsames II, Xerxes, Abdesas, Oronts IV, Ptolemaeus, Seleucid rule, Artaxid rule, Orontid kings of Commagene, Ptolemaeus 163-130 BC, Sames II Theosebs Dikaios 130-109 BC, Mithridates I Callinicus 109-70 BC, Antiochus I Theos 7038 BC, Mithridates II 3820 BC, Mithridates III 2012 BC, Antiochus III 12 BC to 17 AD. Ruled by Rome 1738 AD, Antiochus IV 3872 AD and wife Iotapa. Additional reading: Cyril Tumanov, A Note on the Orontids, Le Muséon. 72 pp. 1-36 and 73 pp. 73-106. Hakob Manandian, Volume I. Yerevan, Hey Pethrat, 1944.